Hi, let's talk about making art. In the mid-90s, a woman named Vanda Vieira-Schmidt started drawing scribbles, symbols and patterns on paper and never stopped. She painted and drew, in her own words, against the evil she saw in the world. On this mission, Vieira-Schmidt covered countless A4 sheets of paper with these magical symbols, signs and numbers. Every day she produced around 10 to 100 drawings and watercolors, sometimes even up to 1,000 per day. Vanda Vieira-Schmidt worked on what she called a world rescue project that is now on permanent loan to the Military History Museum in Dresden, Germany. By 2005, she had created a cube of an estimated 500,000 to 700,000 stacked sheets of her drawings. This corresponds to an approximate weight of around 3 tons of paper. If you visit the exhibition now, you can only imagine what it must have looked like stored in some old basement before it got exhibited here. Stacks and stacks of A4 paper tower well above your head, each one filled to the brim with drawings to combat the forces of evil in the world. You can barely make out the silhouette of a table in there, nested between towers of paper, every inch of free space tightly filled. A chair sticks out to the side, its seat surface covered in another tower of paper. Vieira-Schmidt worked tirelessly on these drawings every day since 1995. And she wanted to continue working on it until the comprehensive peace on Earth she longed for became a reality, which eventually would make her world rescue project superfluous. Vanda Vieira-Schmidt was adamant that she was just so close to achieve world peace with this work very soon. She passed away peacefully in her sleep on August 31st, 2023. And the world peace is, well, let's just say we're still working on that. So what? Is this art even? Well, I'm probably not equipped to answer that question. I'm not an art historian, not a museum curator. I'm just an artist myself. In 2023, 2 months after the passing of Vanda Vieira-Schmidt, I got invited by the Literary Colloquium Berlin to partake in a 24-hour comic challenge in a villa at Wannsee. What's a 24-hour comic challenge, you ask? Well, a 24-hour comic is a comic book written, drawn and completed all within 24 hours. It must have at least 24 pages or 100 panels if you do a web format where you don't use pages. This idea was conceived by no other than the legendary cartoonist and comic theorist Scott McCloud.
In 1990, I dared my friend Steve Bissett to draw a complete 24-page comic in a single day. To seal the deal, I agreed to do one too. I did mine, Steve did his, and 2 decades later, thousands of cartoonists have taken that same challenge.
He's right. I myself have participated in and completed countless of these draining but ultimately rewarding days, grinding away at the pages. When I talked to some younger students that were tabling next to me at an art convention and told them I'd spend my next weekend on this 24-hour comic challenge, they looked at me with disbelief. Why would I torture myself like that? Why would I expose my body and mind to these extreme conditions at my own will? They'd ask me. I did not have a good answer for them. And if we would have been talking about people working overtime, working brutal night shifts, barely getting enough sleep, I would have been on their side of the argument. But this feels different. This is different, right? This is me right after completing said 24-hour comic day in 2023.
Es ist
Ich will mal auf die Uhr gucken, ich habe keine Uhr um. Es ist 5:30. Und ich bin fertig. 24 Seiten. In 24 Stunden, aber halt in nicht 24 Stunden, sondern theoretisch nur in 18 Stunden. Oder in 17,5 Stunden, wenn man so rechnen möchte. Ich bin sehr, sehr zufrieden mit dem Ergebnis. Es schrinkt gerade runter, weil ich das per E-Mail verschicken will, weil es auf die Webseite kommt. Ich bin sowas von fertig mit den Nerven, mit meinem Körper. Mir tut alles weh. Meine Daumen tun weh. Meine Ohren tun weh. Das ist einfach der komplette Schlafentzug. Und halt irgendwie zwei Arbeitstage am Stück. Ja, sogar noch mehr. Sehr anstrengend gewesen, aber es hat sehr viel Spaß gemacht. Und ich glaube, ich lege mich jetzt 2-3 Stündchen aufs Ohr und dann gibt es hier, glaube ich, Frühstück.
Every part of my body hurts. I am disoriented and tired after this torturous time drawing little figures on pages. And I'm also happy as fuck. I survived. I made it. As draining and exhausting as this experience may be, it is also rewarding and exhilarating. I don't need to climb Mount Everest. I have this. And the chance of dying is a bit lower as well, so I hear. This is art for the sake of making art. Not really for the purpose of having art in the end. I mean, being 24 pages richer than you started with is a reward as well, but just the journey of getting there, the visceral feeling of getting to know your limit and pushing it further and further with every page is as thrilling as it is horrifying. I never birthed a child, and I probably never will, but the phenomenon of forgetting the pain and the burdens once it is over and just being glad and joyful about it happening feels a bit more relatable to me after being through this kind of bullshit a couple of times, and honestly, already feeling the itch of doing another one again.
Moomin, I'm going to paint pictures.
What?
I've decided to be an artist. I shall sit in the sun with my palette and my brushes and paints and just paint whatever I see.
But there are also other art challenges out there if you don't want to subject your body to this 24-hour lasting torment. Why not make art for a whole month instead? Ever since abandoning Inktober for reasons I'll not get into in this video, look up for yourself why it's problematic, I'm on the search for new and exciting October drawing challenges. In 2024 I did Tokentober, where we drew scenes and characters from Tolkien's Middle-earth. It was pretty fun, and I learned a lot about this fictional world while researching for the individual assignments. And since I drew all of them in Procreate on the iPad, there are time lapses of each of them for you to check out. But for 2025 I thought, why not have my own challenge? And what better thing to draw than Magic the Gathering tokens? You always need them, and there are so many different ones. I usually have a box with ambiguous tokens that can represent different things in a pinch, so you don't have to search for the right token every time you need one. Here's your orc army, here's your food, here's your insect. So for this last October, I prepared a list and a hashtag and shared it on social media. I didn't think it would get much attention. Or maybe people would drop in and out of it whenever they liked. I never would have guessed how many awesome people picked up the assignments and just nailed them. I should have known the cool folks following me can't resist a good art challenge when it presents itself. But just look at these gorgeous paintings, wild interpretations, and cool use of different media to show off what the token is, what it does, and where it comes from. There is even a drawing of me as a treasure token. You can bet it made my whole day when I saw it. My own style for these tokens is an attempt to emulate ancient carvings on cave walls, rough etchings of weird creatures, a glimpse into a world you don't quite understand just from these context clues. You can figure out roughly what they are about. Some are more clear than others, but in the end, a lot is left open to interpretation. I must admit, although they look quite complex at times, they were pretty fast to produce with the right tricks. You gotta be as efficient as you can when facing these challenges, lest you be left behind. I love that the community so willingly picked it up, whether they saw themselves as artists or not. And that is the beauty in creating art. If you do it, you are an artist, period. And you cannot tell me that the tokens that resulted from this Tokentober are not pieces of art. Have you participated in any drawing challenges lately? Are there any I should be aware of for next year? Vanda Vieira-Schmidt's World Rescue Project, or Weltrettungsprojekt, was briefly displayed at the Prinzhorn Collection in Heidelberg. This collection features works by people who, for very personal reasons, create art that complements their reality. It is the world's biggest collection of outsider art. I say that because Vanda Vieira-Schmidt was convinced that she was working with the German Ministry of Defense against the threat to world peace, a reality that pushed her to draw on all those pages in an effort to bring forth a world without struggles or wars. Vanda Vieira-Schmidt was a mental patient. But isn't it true that art is always done to complement the reality of the artist in one way or the other? Isn't an artwork always a kind of doorway into the mind of the artist, an invitation to see the world as they saw it while creating? And after all that, I wonder, did she make all these drawings because she was a mental patient and couldn't help herself? Or did she produce them maybe because in her heart of hearts she was an artist and couldn't help herself? After I finished school, I wasn't quite sure what my career path should look like. I thought university would be a good start. But none of the art universities I applied to wanted to accept me. However, instead of starting a world war, I enrolled as an art history student. If I couldn't make art myself, then at least I could understand how other people made art and why. And it was actually very interesting. Why does architecture look like that? Why do people dress like this in one art period and like that in another? And what's the deal with the color blue anyway? I wasn't bored at all, but something grew inside me. With every picture I analyzed, the desire to make art myself sprouted again. Every ionic column awakened in me the feeling that I should hammer something like that out of stone. I imagined myself creating works that other students would then analyze, and I realized I had to make art myself, otherwise I would burst. The psychiatrist Hans Prinzhorn, the Prinzhorn Collection's namesake, sought the expression of personal experience, thus collecting with a central category of modern art in mind. And he never doubted that these works were art. Even then, however, German lawyers and psychiatrists were already thinking about the euthanasia of supposedly empty human shells, as they called them, meaning precisely those long-term patients for whose creative intelligence Prinzhorn had created a forum with his collection and book. The Nazis later used the collection to pathologize unwelcome art productions. Some exhibits from Heidelberg were included in the traveling exhibition Degenerate Art since 1938. Prinzhorn believed that insane art, as it was called in his day, was even superior to professional art in terms of authenticity. However, judging art by such hierarchies may be misguided and probably isn't as helpful when it comes to understanding art at all. We shouldn't present outsider art as the better or worse art. Instead, I think we should understand that making art is part of the human condition, whether we are mentally ill or not. I can relate to Vanda Vieira-Schmidt, as I too am driven to create by forces I can't quite understand, as you have seen in this video. Granted, I'm not under the impression to work for the German military or that my drawings could ever achieve world peace, but still, the desire to make art every day, to create for whatever reason and to do it sometimes obsessively is, as you have seen, not a foreign concept to me. We can observe that the attitude towards outsider art on the part of art institutions is beginning to change. Whereas works by people with experience of mental health issues or other borderline experiences were often considered merely an exciting addition to the collections in the past, cultural institutions are now more and more opening up to the idea of including outsider art in their collections in order to represent previously marginalized groups in society and to tell their stories. This might be a way to help free the genre of outsider art from the label of social marginalization and the artists from discriminatory terms such as crazy or insane. I often get asked at what age I started drawing. And my response to that is a counter question. When did you stop drawing? Because the truth is, I don't know one toddler who isn't an exceptional artist. And chances are, even if you don't consider yourself an artist, you made the most amazing art as a kid. Until one day you just stopped and didn't anymore. I haven't figured out when that usually happens and why. Maybe it's part of growing up. Maybe it's part of a perception of adulthood forced upon us by society. Drawing is something that kids do, not adults. But you don't really believe that, do you? Drawing and making art is something that humans do and have done forever. So, if you are still making art, good for you. And if you aren't making art anymore, ask yourself why you stopped. Why not pick up a pen or some clay? Open up MS Paint or write a poem just for the sake of it. You should really give it a try again. Do it yourself. Try things out. Try different mediums. Have fun with it. You don't even need to show it to anyone ever. Just do it for yourself. Your inner child will thank you. Whether you pursue art for fun as a profession or as therapy, as an outlet for creativity or as an expression of an unstable mind, it is sometimes difficult to distinguish one from the other, and the lines we can draw are blurry at best. Sometimes they aren't visible at all. Until next time, be excellent to each other. Thanks to all my patrons. You can see their names on the screen right now. You're awesome. If you want to join the ranks of these people, check out my Patreon page linked below the video. You can find printable files of my art over there, mostly for making your own Magic Gathering proxies with my designs. Maybe that's something you're interested in. A big thanks to Sam from Ristic Studies for lending Scott McCloud his voice. This video is not sponsored by Stitches Supply, but you should still check it out if you want a cute hat with a silly little guy on it that I made in collaboration with them.
It's one of the comfiest hats I own, and it makes my art wearable on a piece of clothing, which makes me feel very professional. You can find it at stitchersupply.com. And thank you for watching until the end. This is for you. I love you.